What is your initial thoughts on what you expect to see that night in that fight?
Oh, okay. When these two guys fight, Alvarez, well, he's got his big day, his big payday right now. It's very smart of him because he started challenging him. It's a dangerous fight for McGregor. You know, the fighting style from Alvarez is relentless, pushing, coming forward, throwing bombs in the clinch, then throwing bombs in the clinch, then take him down once, and he's got some serious ground and pound. He also has stamina. Fought a bunch of time, 5 rounds. He's been there for a long time. McGregor is going to need his footwork, and he's going to need it a lot. He does not want to be taken down. He's not going to be like Chad Mendes once it takes to the ground. This guy is going to unload on him. He also needs to avoid the clinch because it's very tiring, and he doesn't have the best gas tank, you know. Alvarez was right with that.
Well, Alvarez said he has 8 minutes.
That's it. And then
McGregor
if Alvarez
says he's
is going to
knock
push,
him out, though, in the first round.
That's the thing. He's very powerful in the first 2 rounds. You know, against Diaz, he looked phenomenal. But if Diaz didn't come forward like Alvarez is going to come forward. Alvarez is going to bull rush this guy. You watch, that's what's going to happen. And, you know, it's going to be a tough fight. If there's going to be a knockout, it's probably going to be a knockout from McGregor in the first or second round. After that, I truly believe it will be Alvarez.
What about the ripple effect of this fight being announced? As of last week, there was speculation that Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated #1 contender for the lightweight championship, that he would challenge Eddie Alvarez. Maybe at UFC 205. It was also reported that it might take place in December in Toronto at UFC 206. But I'm wondering, when the fact is, you look at what's happened now, Nurmagomedov, he gets Mike Johnson coming off the destruction of Dustin Poirier and in a huge lightweight fight at UFC 205, and Jose Aldo. With the fact that, you remember, I mean, and again, this is as the UFC world turns, Buzzito, but, you know, Dana White can say stuff as a promoter and then change his mind or do other things. But Jose Aldo, who's the interim featherweight champion, he's now saying, you know what? You guys are going to keep the title on McGregor so he can try to make history. Well, I'm done with this stuff. I want out.
Well, I said last week on Inside MMA, you know, Mick Maynard, who now is the matchmaker, together with Shelby, of course, at the UFC, and what will be his first job? That was one of our 3 questions at the end. And I said, well, he should let McGregor fight Aldo first before he's going to fight another fight, because right now, as you said in the past, he's holding the belt hostage, and it's just not fair. But hey, I can understand this because this is a fight that they needed. I know the card is huge already,
right?
But they needed a hype fight,
especially in the biggest media market in the world, the New York City.
Oh, and what good is this going to do for New York? Now New York is going to realize, oh, we could have done this 10 years ago.
Right.
We would have made a lot of money because they're going to bring in a lot of fans, restaurants, hotels, everything is going to profit.
Do you think Aldo is just calling the UFC's bluff? How do you see this?
I see what he says. Unfortunately, I think he's right with that. If you think about it, you know, that's
but where,
it's what I would say. I would say.
Conversely, to play the devil's advocate, you know, he missed a lot of time when he was champ. Yes, he is right where he needs to be after a vintage performance against Frankie Edgar. And I do agree that the title should not be held hostage, but I also know what Conor McGregor means to the UFC.
Oh, yeah, no,
and
I totally get
what's happened in the past. You're right. There's more leverage now. Now McGregor is running his show. And while he and Dana White probably have an interesting relationship behind closed doors, Conor McGregor is broken through that glass ceiling. And he does call a lot of his own shots. So I can see the UFC giving him the opportunity, although they've also said, obviously, he has to surrender one after. So if he does beat Alvarez, I predict the featherweight title will be vacated.
I think so, too. I don't think he's going to come back to that weight class. And not because he doesn't want to. I think it's a hard weight cut for him as well. We were talking about it even before that. He cannot do 145 for a long time anymore.
All right. Well, obviously, lots going on with UFC 205 and the fallout of what will be the biggest UFC event ever, going down November 12th at Madison Square Garden. And just to give you an idea, as of right now, we don't know the order, but it is going to be, well, we know the main event will be Eddie Alvarez defending the lightweight championship against Conor McGregor, the current featherweight champion. We will also see Tyron Woodley make the first defense of the UFC featherweight championship, fresh off his highlight reel knockout of the former division kingpin Robbie Lawler at UFC 201. He is going to face Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who has been on a roll and outpointing former challenger
destroying
Rory
Hendricks, actually.
McDonald destroying Johnny Hendricks, first man to stop him with strikes. And right now, Thompson, just like Conor McGregor, opening as the favorite in their respective title fights. And hey, that's not all. Strawweight champion, Joanna champion, 12-0. I'm not even going to try to butcher her last name, like so many quote-unquote media guys butchered the UFC names at the
press conference.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But anyway, she will defend against another undefeated fighter. This is amazing. Someone's always got to go. And fellow Polish star Karolina Kowalkiewicz, buddy, that's 3 title fights.
It's going to be crazy,
One night.
With Woodley and Thompson, can Woodley overcome the distance between them? Can he needs a long shot, and I'm talking about his takedown here, because Thompson is really good at keeping his opponents outside his reach. That's the big question. Once he does, can he take it to the ground? Even when he has the clinch, Thompson is really good at takedown defense, but he needs to have it there. He has the power, though, to make a mark, come in with a big swing like Dan Henderson would do, and then go for the takedown. So it's going to be a tough fight. Jędrzejczyk and Kowalkiewicz, by the way, that in the amateur division, Joanna beat her a long time ago by way of rear naked choke. That's before the last fight, before she turned pro. Now, Joanna, I see, is a little bit more powerful striker and fought a better competition here in the UFC. So she knows already what to do for 5 fights. I think it leans more towards her because she's just a turbo, a dynamite.
So that's 3 UFC championship fights at UFC 205. Here's the rest of the card as we now know it. We mentioned Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Michael Johnson. Winner gets the next shot, I'm sure, at the UFC lightweight championship, barring an injury. How about Yoel Romero against former UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman? Donald Cerrone, who was on a torrid streak at welterweight against Kelvin Gastelum. Raquel Pennington against former UFC women's bantamweight champion Miesha Tate. Former UFC lightweight champion Frankie Edgar, he takes on Jeremy Stevens at featherweight. This is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. This is going to be the biggest pay-per-view ever.
Former UFC light heavyweight champion against Tim Kennedy at middleweight, 185. Tim Boach, Rafael Natal, Thiago Alves versus Jim Miller, Lyman Good versus Bilal Muhammad, and Liz Carmouche, who, of course, challenged Ronda Rousey in the first UFC women's match against Caitlin Chugajin. And, wow, that's UFC 205.